If you're in crypto, you already know we're in the throes of the initial stages of a digital asset revolution. Digital clothes for an avatar can now be more desirable than real world clothes to a school kid, and digital real estate can be more expensive than where you actually live. None of that is surprising to anyone in crypto. What's actually interesting here is that all of it, the whole digital space, is still very much up for grabs. Ready? Let's go. Today we're going to talk about two seemingly disparate things that are really just different sides of the same coin. We're going to talk about the metaverse ambitions of one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and we're also going to talk about what IOHK and World Mobile are up to in Zanzibar. I think everybody already knows that Facebook has rebranded itself. Facebook, the larger corporate entity, has rebranded itself as Meta. And Mark Zuckerberg personally gave this hour and 17-minute long presentation called The Metaverse and How We'll Build It Together, Connect 2021. Why are they doing this? Well, everybody might be right. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg might be some kind of reptilian alien or some kind of synthetic human. While that may be correct, he is not one of the dumb reptilian aliens. He's one of the smart ones. And I think Zuckerberg and Facebook realized a long time ago something that I think everybody in crypto also realizes, and that's that metaverses are going to consume a significant chunk of the human interactions. And Facebook is in the human interaction business at base. Basically, what they're providing is a platform for baby boomers to interact with each other. At this point, that's all I can figure. Because the only people I know who talk to me about being on Facebook or doing stuff on Facebook are people of that age group. And, maybe people who there's some very niche group, they're into some very niche activity or something, and there's some kind of a Facebook group that they've been a part of, since the days when younger people were still on Facebook. What struck me most about this video is that this would have been a fantastic opportunity for Facebook, now Meta, for Meta to humanize Mark Zuckerberg. We make all these jokes about him being an alien, a reptilian, some kind of a cyborg, and this would have been a great opportunity to humanize the guy. Instead, what we got was this 1 billion % scripted hour and 17-minute long presentation where nobody is really speaking in a natural way. Everything's scripted. Even the jokes are scripted, and they're kind of like terrible. There's a scene when Zuckerberg's kind of like, you can't even really tell that he's making a joke. It's kind of like, hey, I thought I got to be the robot. And the other guy's like, no, Mark, I'm always the robot. And then there's kind of like this like forced laughter. I could be misremembering that scene, but that's kind of my recollection of the tone of the whole video. It's sort of these occasional weird forced jokes. I really wish what they would have done is just presented this with Zuckerberg like naturally, talking about things, and then playing little short presentations where he shows you what he's talking about. That would have actually humanized the guy, and people maybe would have stopped calling him a reptilian alien. That's what I was thinking. And then I realized I'm not their target audience at all. It's not me he's reaching out to. He's reaching out to, the kinds of customers that Facebook is used to dealing with over the last couple of years. And that's a very different audience than somebody in my age group or younger, who's into crypto. His customer is my mom. My mother is Mark Zuckerberg's customer, and she'd probably love this presentation, and she'd probably hate it if he actually talked, the way he talks on a normal basis. This very G-rated, Disney version of himself and everybody else in the video, this is probably great for the intended audience. So it took me a while to get past that, but once I realized that, I realized it doesn't really matter what I think because I'm not Facebook's clientele, actually. What is really interesting, though, is how much effort Facebook Meta now, I'm going to call them Facebook forever, but I guess I should just call them Meta, how much effort Meta is actually putting into this metaverse thing. I mean, they're not just like trying to build out their own Decentraland. They're building out, I think everybody knows they own Oculus. They're building out VR stuff, AR stuff. They're talking about, he's talking about neural networks in this video, or not neural networks, but neural computer interface. He's talking about risk controlled stuff. And it's kind of, you can tell that they've put a lot of energy into this. I mean, he's thinking about these combinations where you're interacting with someone who is maybe using augmented reality and you're using, instead of AR, actual VR. And the example they illustrate with video is sort of like one friend being at a concert somewhere and reaching out to their friend on the other side of the world and saying, hey, you should be at this concert with me. So the friend that's actually at the concert in real life, it looks like they start using AR so they can see their friend next to them. And the friend next to them is maybe using VR so they can visualize the whole concert environment, and of course it's like this super unnatural, forced kind of Disney version of what this would maybe look like, which is fine because, like I said, their target audience probably appreciates it. Like my mom would probably love this presentation. To me, it was such a big missed opportunity. But what I think is interesting is what this is indicative of, to me, that I think is of value to observe, is just how much energy they're putting into this. Facebook is a tech giant, a titan in the tech world. And it's super obvious. The thing that Zuckerberg is most interested in right now, he's putting all of his energy into, is metaverse stuff, the digitization of things. And he actually says in the presentation that the metaverses of tomorrow cannot be ones where centralized entities own all the assets. He's pretty much telling us, hey, we already know here at Meta, we already know that you're going to have to own your own assets that exist in these metaverses. He also talks a lot about interoperability. By the way, this is what Zuckerberg looks like when he's in the metaverse on a space station playing cards with a robot. But the combination of all this, them seeming to focus so much on some of the hardware pieces for the VR and the AR segments, and talking about how everybody's going to have to own their own assets, and talking about interoperability. I think what we're seeing is that Facebook has already capitulated on centralized ownership of any metaverse. I think they know that they're going to be able to provide a gateway for people to get into sort of meta created metaverses or meta enabled metaverses and things like that. But I think they know that crypto is already too big. Crypto is already too gigantic. People already know about what NFTs are, or let's say there are enough people who already know about NFTs and sort of true private ownership of digital assets. Facebook is being super smart. They're being the super smart reptilian aliens here, and they're capitulating on centralized ownership. At least they're saying they are, which shows that they know it's going to be an issue. It seems that Mark Zuckerberg recognizes that it's very unlikely that Meta will be able to monopolize as significant a chunk of this future collection of metaverses as Facebook was able to monopolize social media on a centralized basis in the past. And he also realizes something else that Charles Hoskinson talked about here in this World Mobile video in Zanzibar. So we knew that World Mobile and IOHK were doing really interesting things in Zanzibar during this recent Cardano Africa tour. But we didn't know exactly what happened in Zanzibar. We knew there was this partnership. There was a consummation of some kind of a partnership between IOHK and World Mobile and Zanzibar, and then it involved the blue economy, and it was sort of a I believe a multi-phase plan, and involved their e-government initiative. But we didn't know exactly what went down until this very beautiful video created and produced by World Mobile, came out today. In this video, we see the IOHK team and the World Mobile team at a school in Zanzibar. And Mickey Watkins, the CEO of World Mobile, tells the students, this kind of small group of students assembled in this classroom with them, hey, you guys, the young ones, you're the ones who have all the power in this world because you're the generation that's going to have access to the internet. Our mission is to provide access to the internet. You're the ones that are going to have that access. You're the ones who have all the power because you're the young ones who will be able to grow the fastest. Charles also kind of addresses this assemblage of students, and he says, hey, the entire world is up for grabs. And I think that's the piece that Zuckerberg also understands with this huge rebranding and reorientation towards all things metaverse. I think he understands this digitization of assets is also going to be a digitization of human interactions. I mean, you could say we already have that, right, in the developed world. But the thing that IOHK and World Mobile seem to understand is that half of the world hasn't experienced that digitization of human interaction yet. And while Meta and Zuckerberg are worried about that digitization going to the next level with metaverses, half of the world still isn't even at that phase where they have internet access. But the entire world is up for grabs. This digitization of the entire world is up for grabs. We've got half of the world, they're going to experience internet for the first time. They haven't experienced it yet. That's what IOHK and World Mobile are addressing here. And then we've got Zuckerberg, who's trying to take it to the next level for the people who are already on the internet. Like I don't think the target audience of an Oculus device is someone who doesn't have internet access. I think that's for the developed world so far. But here's the beautiful thing. As soon as that other half of the world has fast enough internet, they're not going to want to suffer through what we had to suffer through with, photo and text-based internet usage like we did, sort of through the 90s and the early parts of this century. They're going to want to leapfrog directly to the coolest stuff. They're going to want to be in metaverses just like everybody in the developed world might want to be in metaverses, if Meta and a lot of us in crypto are correct anyways. They're going to want to go directly there because they'll already be on a level playing field. As soon as the internet is fast enough and they can connect to the internet, they're going to want to go directly to the cool stuff. They're not going to want to stop and build out their own sort of text and photo based version of Facebook like we had to, like was the extent of what was available to us in the early days of Facebook. They're going to want to go directly to the cool stuff, which is going to be the metaverse stuff, because they'll be on a level playing field. And what metaverses this whole world of human beings uses, what digital assets they're involved with, what blockchains those digital assets live on, that's all up for grabs. Nobody right now is dying to own a Facebook / Meta, associated NFT versus a Cardano NFT. But when we see scenes like this, IOHK and World Mobile going to a university in Zanzibar, where the university has a 20 megabyte internet connection for 3,000 students, when they go to a university like this and they have a solution to that problem, all of a sudden they can bring much more internet connectivity to these 3,000 students. You see one ecosystem, our ecosystem, planting the seeds that eventually, when we get to this world when many more people have internet connectivity for the first time and it's fast enough, you see this ecosystem planting the seeds for those people to use the digital assets and the metaverses that are based in that ecosystem. This video also contains some truly beautiful shots of Zanzibar, just like this one. Good job, World Mobile. Next up, we see the IOHK and World Mobile teams attending a meeting with a pretty wide swath of the government for Zanzibar, including the Minister for Oil and Gas Exploration, the Minister for E-Government, the Minister for the Blue Economy, and the Minister for Education. After the meeting, there's a little interview with the Director General of the E-Government Agency, and he talks about how the presentation from the Cardano side was really moving. From his reaction, you can kind of gauge just how strong the demand for Cardano blockchain services is from the Zanzibar government. While the Zuckerberg video came off as sort of highly orchestrated and artificial and not genuine, this World Mobile video comes off as almost an authentic documentary about IOHK and World Mobile going to Zanzibar. They go to a fish market where they've already got a mesh network tower up, and 1,000 people will be able to access the internet at the fish market. They go to a university where they've got a 20 megabyte line for 3,000 students, and World Mobile might be able to bring much higher quality internet to those 3,000 students. But the reason why these two videos are being addressed here together is not this juxtaposition of tone. It's because they're really just addressing two sides of the same coin. That coin is the digitization of everything. In crypto, we already know about this digitization revolution. The mainstream tech consumer world who spend all day on Facebook, they don't know about this digitization revolution yet. Zuckerberg is sort of focused on being a part of that digitization of everything for that sort of demographic, the developed nation social media consumer who he thinks will soon be a metaverse consumer. In this World Mobile video, though, we see IOHK and World Mobile reaching out to the other half of the world, literally the other half of the world, who have never experienced real internet connectivity before, but who soon might leapfrog from that directly to exactly the same thing that these developed nation, internet consumers are doing. And that might end up being this metaverse that Zuckerberg is so enthusiastic about, or a collection of metaverses. And I think what IOHK and World Mobile realize, it's something that Mickey Watkins says in this video. He says, hey, Zanzibar already has all the skills. The people already have all the skills they need. They just need that internet connectivity. They just need to be on a level playing field with people in the developed world. And once they have that, they're going to be able to compete just fine. But first, they need to be in the arena. They need to have that internet connectivity so they can reach out. The people of the developing world are going to be on that level playing field for the first time if they have the right internet connectivity. And while Zuckerberg seems to only be aimed at the developed world and what the future of their social interaction is going to be, he's also it sounds like he's already capitulated on the premise that it's going to be the blockchains like Cardano that end up housing the assets that proliferate in that digital world. At least he's saying he knows that the people will have to own their own assets. Maybe his plan is to build some kind of a meta-based blockchain, but he's also talking about interoperability. So I think he knows, he's already capitulated that these blockchains like Cardano are going to be players in that space, and Facebook is not going to be the monopolistic centralized power it is in social media. It's going to be another player on the spectrum. So while I think blockchains like Cardano are going to be directly competing with entities like Meta for chunks of this collection of metaverses, the smart blockchains, Cardano in this case, are also out there planting the seeds to be the blockchains that service the needs of the entire other half of the world. So it's great to see. I think Cardano is set to compete with the tech giants for a share of the developed world future interaction. They're also planting the seeds to be a dominant force in the developed world, and the other half of the human population coming onto this playing field with the developed world. I get excited about this stuff. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.